The massive space station called Hegemony's Crown floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal city. Inside its gleaming halls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were getting ready for something they thought would be very easy. They were about to meet humans for the first time. Ambassador Veltar stood in front of a huge mirror, checking his ceremonial armor one last time. The armor was covered in sharp spikes and glowing symbols that showed how many battles he had won. His forearms moved quickly as he adjusted each piece perfectly. Behind him, other alien leaders did the same thing. They all looked like walking weapons. "Today we will crush another weak species," Veltar said to his friends. His voice was deep and scary, like thunder rolling across mountains. "These humans will bow before us just like all the others." The other aliens nodded and made hungry sounds. They had been watching Earth's television signals for months. They saw human soldiers fighting with guns and tanks. They saw movies about war and violence. To them, humans look like baby animals trying to play soldier. "Their weapons are so primitive," laughed General Caxter, whose metal claws could cut through steel. "They still use explosives and bullets. How cute. And their bodies are so soft," added Admiral Zephyra, flexing her stone-hard skin. "No natural armor, no poison, no sharp teeth. They are like walking meat." The aliens had done this many times before. They would arrive at a new planet, show their superior weapons, and demand complete surrender. Most species gave up immediately when they saw the consortium's mighty war fleets. Those who tried to fight were crushed within days. Earth would be no different. Or so they thought. The alarm chimed softly, meaning the human delegation had arrived. Veltar smiled, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth that could bite through metal. "Let's go meet these pathetic warriors." The alien leaders marched to the docking bay like an army going to war. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. Other aliens stopped to watch them pass, knowing they were about to witness another species fall to their knees. The docking bay was enormous, big enough to hold a dozen warships. Giant screens showed the approaching human vessel. It looked tiny compared to the consortium's battlecruisers. The aliens laughed at its simple design. "Look." At that pathetic ship, Veltar pointed with one of his armored claws. "It doesn't even have visible weapons. They're not even trying to look dangerous." The human ship docked with a quiet hiss. The aliens arranged themselves in their most intimidating formation. Weapons gleaming, armor shining, ready to terrify the humans into immediate submission. The airlock door opened slowly. The aliens leaned forward, expecting to see human soldiers in crude metal armor, carrying primitive weapons, maybe shaking with fear. Instead, 5 humans walked out wearing perfectly fitted black business suits. They looked like they were going to an office meeting, not a military surrender. The alien leaders blinked in confusion. Where were the weapons? Where were the battle scars? These humans looked cleaner than medical equipment. The human in front was a woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She carried a simple leather briefcase, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she walked forward, with smooth, confident steps that made no sound on the metal floor. "I am Director Kim Minji of Meridian Strategic Solutions," she said in a clear, professional voice. "Hey, these are my colleagues: Legal Counsel Park Jin-ho, Financial Analyst Lee Sora, Operations Manager Choi Dae-ho, and Communications Director Han Yuri." The aliens looked at each other with growing amusement. These titles meant nothing to them. What was a legal counsel? What did a financial analyst do in battle? Veltar decided to have some fun. He stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over the tiny human woman. His armor made loud clanking sounds with each step. "Welcome, primitive ones," he said in his most condescending voice. "We shall discuss your planet's contribution to our great consortium." He expected the humans to fall to their knees, or at least show some fear. Instead, Kim Mingi simply nodded politely and pulled out a small tablet device. "Thank you for meeting with us," she said calmly. "We're ready to begin negotiations." The aliens led the humans to a conference room that was designed to intimidate. The ceiling was incredibly high, the walls were black metal, and the alien seats were built like thrones. The human chairs were deliberately small and uncomfortable. Veltar activated a holographic display showing the consortium's demands. terms were brutal, designed to completely dominate Earth's economy and resources. 99-year exclusive mining rights to all Earth materials, he announced. 15% royalties on all exports, mandatory sharing of all human technology, complete submission to consortium trade law. He waited for the humans to protest, to argue, to show some backbone. Instead, they quietly discussed among themselves in low voices, checking their tablets and making notes. After 10 minutes, Kim Mingi looked up. "We accept these terms." The aliens were shocked. No species had ever accepted their first offer. There was always arguing, pleading, attempts to negotiate better deals. "Excellent," Beltar smiled, his sharp teeth gleaming with satisfaction. "Your species shows proper respect for your betters." Kim Minji simply nodded and continued making notes. "We look forward to a long and profitable partnership." As the session ended, the consortium leaders celebrated privately. Another weak species had been easily dominated. They had expected at least some resistance, but these humans had folded immediately. What they didn't notice was how carefully the humans had been observing everything. They missed the small recording devices. They didn't see how the humans' eyes cataloged every detail of the station's layout, security systems, and operational procedures. The galaxy's most dangerous warriors had just been dismissed as harmless office workers. While the alien leaders threw a victory party in the upper levels of the station, the 5 humans quietly spread out through the massive complex like invisible hunters. They moved with purpose, each one knowing exactly what they needed to do. The aliens thought the humans were just wandering around like lost tourists, right? But something much more dangerous was happening. Park Jin-ho found his way to the legal archives, an enormous library filled with millions of legal documents from across the galaxy. The alien librarian, a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing eyes, was happy to help the curious human. "I want to learn about your amazing legal system, Park," Jin-ho said with a friendly smile. "Earth's laws are so simple compared to yours." The librarian felt proud and important. "Oh yes, our legal framework is the most complex in the galaxy. We have 17 different court systems, each with their own rules and authorities." Park Jin-ho nodded enthusiastically while his fingers flew across his tablet, downloading massive amounts of legal information. How fascinating. Do these courts ever disagree with each other? All the time, the librarian laughed. Sometimes the same case can be decided differently in different courts. It keeps our lawyers very busy. What the librarian didn't know was that Park Jin-ho was one of Earth's most skilled legal warriors. He had spent years learning how to find weaknesses in complicated legal systems. As he read through the documents, he spotted hundreds of conflicts and loopholes that could be used to tie up the entire consortium in legal battles for decades. "Your regulatory framework is truly impressive," he said, secretly mapping every single weakness in their legal armor. So many overlapping authorities and jurisdictions. Meanwhile, Lee Sora had talked her way into the accounting department by claiming she wanted to learn about galactic financial practices for Earth's primitive economy. The alien accountants found her questions cute and harmless. "We're just a small planet trying to understand big business," she said with an innocent smile. "Could you help me understand how your supply chains work?" The chief accountant, a blob-like creature with multiple eyes, was happy to show off. "Our logistics network spans 1,000 worlds," he said proudly. "Every resource flows through carefully planned routes." Lee Sora asked simple questions that seemed like curiosity, but were actually precise surgical strikes at the heart of their economic system. "What happens if one of these routes gets blocked? You have backup plans?" "Well, some routes are more important than others," the accountant admitted. "For example, our main mining operation depends on just 3 hyperspace lanes for transportation." Sora's tablet quietly recorded every detail while she nodded admiringly. "How do you manage such complex interdependencies? It must be very difficult." She was learning something the aliens didn't even realize. Their entire economy was built like a house of cards. If you knew where to push, the whole thing would collapse. And Lee Sora was an expert at finding those pressure points in another. Part of the station, Han Yuri, was conducting what she called cultural research. She walked around talking to ordinary alien workers, asking about their daily lives with genuine interest. I'm studying workplace culture, she explained to a group of maintenance workers. How do you like working here? Are you happy with your jobs? The workers thought her questions were strange but harmless. Aliens from the consortium worlds were not used to anyone caring about their opinions. The pay is okay, one worker said. But the hours are long and the bosses don't listen to us. You ever wish things were different? Hanyori asked casually. All the time, another worker replied. But there's nothing we can do about it. Hanyuri smiled sympathetically while taking mental notes. She was identifying every source of worker dissatisfaction, every complaint, every wish for change. Earth, she had helped organize the biggest labor strikes in corporate history. She knew exactly how to turn unhappy workers into a powerful force for change. Choi. Daeho spent his time taking educational tours of the station's factories and production facilities. The alien engineers were proud to show off their advanced technology to the primitive human. This is our main power generation facility, explained the chief engineer, a metal-skinned creature with 4 arms. It produces energy for the entire station. Choi Daeho looked around with wide eyes, pretending to be amazed. Incredible. Does it work? The engineer explained the complex systems. Choi Daeho's trained mind was analyzing every detail. He saw the weak points, the bottlenecks, the critical components that could shut down the entire operation if they failed. His engineering background let him understand their industrial infrastructure better than they understood it themselves. Your production capabilities are truly impressive, he said, secretly documenting every vulnerability he found. How do you handle maintenance on such complex machinery? Through it all, Kim Mingi moved through the station like a spider weaving an invisible web. She attended meetings, asked questions, and made observations that seemed random, but were actually part of a carefully planned intelligence operation. She met with department heads, facility managers, and senior administrators. Each conversation gave her another piece of the puzzle. She was mapping the power structure, identifying who made the real decisions, who controlled the money, and who had access to critical systems. We're so grateful for this opportunity to learn, she told each alien leader. Earth has so much to learn from your advanced civilization. The aliens felt flattered and superior. They had no idea that they were being dissected like specimens in a laboratory. By the end of the week, human team had accomplished something impossible. It had taken apart the entire galactic trade. Consortium piece by piece, studying every component, every connection, every weakness. The aliens still saw them as harmless bureaucrats obsessed with paperwork and procedures. They laughed at the humans' endless questions and note-taking, calling it primitive ritual behavior. But the humans now possessed something more valuable than any weapon: complete knowledge of their enemy's strengths and weaknesses. They had created a detailed blueprint of galactic civilization's economic nervous system, and they knew exactly where to strike to bring it all crashing down. The reconnaissance phase was complete. The real war was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the first meeting, and the consortium leaders were still celebrating their easy victory over the primitive humans. Ambassador Veltar was planning a grand ceremony to show off Earth's surrender to the entire galaxy. He had already ordered special decorations and invited important guests from across the known worlds. The alien leaders were in the middle of choosing what expensive food to serve at their victory party when a message arrived. The humans wanted another meeting. What now? Veltar groaned, not bothering to look up from his party planning. More of their endless paperwork, I suppose. General Caxter laughed while polishing his metal claws. Maybe they want to surrender even more completely. Perhaps they'll offer us their entire planet as a gift. Let them come, Admiral Zephyr said with boredom. We can listen to them shuffle their documents for a few minutes, then get back to planning our celebration. The other aliens nodded in agreement. These humans were so predictable. They probably wanted to discuss some tiny detail in the contract, or maybe ask permission to breathe their own air. When the day of the meeting arrived, Veltar barely bothered to put on his formal armor. He wore his casual battle gear instead, the kind he used for dealing with unimportant problems. The other alien leaders did the same, showing their complete lack of respect for the human delegation. The conference room was the same as before. It's designed to make visiting species feel small and powerless. The aliens took their throne-like seats and waited for the humans to arrive. Kim Minji walked in first, looking exactly the same as 3 months ago. Same business suit, same calm expression, same leather briefcase. Her 4 colleagues followed behind her, also unchanged. The aliens almost fell asleep from boredom. "You for meeting with us again," Kim Minji said politely, taking her seat at the small human table. "We've completed our preliminary analysis of our partnership agreement." Veltar yawned loudly. Yes, whatever. What tiny detail do you want to discuss now?" Kim Minji opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "We'd like to discuss some adjustments to our agreement." The aliens barely paid attention. They were already thinking about their victory party and who they would invite to witness humanity's humiliation. "We've discovered some interesting issues," Kim Minji continued in her calm, professional voice. "Perhaps my colleague Park Jin-ho could explain." Park Jin-ho stood up with smooth, precise movements. His 3 months of preparation showed in every gesture. "Thank you, Director Kim. We've identified several concerning jurisdictional conflicts in your trade laws." "Conflicts?" Veltar said with mild annoyance. "What conflicts?" "Our laws are perfect." Park Jin-ho smiled politely. "I'm afraid that's not quite accurate. You see, I've filed preliminary injunctions in 17 different galactic courts, effectively freezing all consortium assets pending legal resolution." The room went very quiet. The aliens stared at the human lawyer with growing confusion. "What did you just say?" Admiral Zephyra asked slowly. "Legal injunctions, Park?" Jin-ho repeated calmly. "Your overlapping court systems have conflicting authorities. I've used those conflicts to challenge the legality of your entire trade framework." Suddenly, every alien's communication device began beeping and flashing with urgent messages. Emergency alerts flooded their systems. Legal departments across the galaxy were reporting that consortium assets had been frozen by court orders. "This is impossible," Veltar whispered, his 4 hands shaking as he read the messages. Lysora stood up next, activating a holographic display that showed complex financial charts and graphs. "Our financial analysis reveals critical vulnerabilities in your supply chain." The aliens stared at the display in shock. It showed details about their economy that even they didn't fully understand. "For instance," Lysora continued conversationally, "your flagship mining operation depends entirely on carrium ore, which transits through exactly 3 hyperspace routes. Interestingly, Earth's new shipping companies now control the regulatory oversight for 2 of those routes." "That's impossible," General Caxter sputtered. "We would have noticed if aliens took control of our trade routes." "Oh, we're not aliens," Lysora smiled. "We're legally registered businesses operating under your own free market laws. Everything we did was completely legal according to your own rules." Choi Dae-ho joined the presentation, his engineering background evident in his technical explanations. "We've also acquired controlling interests in 6 of your subsidiary operations through perfectly legal shell company purchases." The aliens' eyes went wide with horror. Shell companies were corporations that existed only on paper, designed to hide the real owners of a business. The humans had been buying pieces of the consortium economy without anyone knowing who was really behind the purchases. "Your own free market principles made it surprisingly easy," Choi Dae-ho added with a polite smile. "We simply followed your own business laws." Han Yuri activated her communication arrays, showing news broadcasts from across the galaxy. "Meanwhile, our public relations campaign has been quite successful. The consortium's exploitation of primitive worlds became the top trending topic on interstellar social networks. The screens showed protests on dozens of worlds, with angry crowds demanding justice for species that had been bullied by the consortium. The humans had turned public opinion against their oppressors using nothing but truth and good storytelling. Ambassador Veltar's armored hands trembled as he finally understood what was happening. His voice cracked with fear and rage. This is warfare." Kim Minji adjusted her suit jacket and smiled calmly. "No, Ambassador. This is business." The aliens realized they were not facing primitive warriors with crude weapons. They were facing something far more dangerous. Humans who had turned business itself into a weapon of war. The galaxy's most powerful empire was under attack by 5 people with briefcases. And they were losing. The alarm bells were ringing throughout the consortium's headquarters like a dying animal's final scream. Supreme Administrator Carthex, the most powerful being in the galaxy, sat in his enormous golden throne, with his head in his hands. Around him, his top advisors ran back and forth like frightened insects, carrying reports that got worse every minute. "Status report," Carthex demanded, his voice shaking with fear and anger. His usual commanding roar had become a desperate whisper. Economic Advisor Zilvan, whose tentacles were normally a confident purple color, had turned pale white with terror. It's unprecedented, Supreme Administrator. They've weaponized our own systems against us. Explain that in simple terms." Carthex growled. Zilvan's tentacles trembled as he read from his reports. "Our mining operations are locked in litigation. Every time we try to move, or human lawyers file another legal challenge. Our shipping routes are controlled by their regulatory agencies. And our stock prices are crashing because of coordinated short selling." "What is short selling?" Carthex asked, his massive claws digging into the arms of his throne. "It's when someone borrows your stocks, sells them immediately, waits for the price to drop, then buys them back cheaper and returns them. They keep the difference as profit," Zilvan explained. "The humans have been doing this to hundreds of our companies at the same time." Carthex stood up, his armor clanking with rage. "Use the military. Send the war fleets. Destroy their pathetic planet." "Against what?" Zilvan's tentacles quivered with desperation. "There's nothing to shoot at. They're destroying us with mathematics and paperwork." Military Commander Vorjak stepped forward, his battle scars showing decades of successful wars. "Supreme Administrator, I've conquered 1,000 worlds, but I don't know how to fight an enemy that uses calculators as weapons. They're killing us with numbers," whispered Intelligence Chief Nexera. "Our own numbers turned against us." Meanwhile, in their temporary office on the station, the 5 humans worked with the calm efficiency of surgeons performing a complex operation. They had turned the conference room into a war room, with holographic displays showing the collapse of the consortium's economy in real time. Park Jin-ho sat at his desk, filing legal documents faster than a machine gun firing bullets. Every few minutes, he would submit another lawsuit, another injunction, another legal challenge. His legal warfare had created a web of court cases so complex that the consortium's lawyers couldn't understand their own legal system anymore. Mining operation on Kepler 7 is now frozen, pending environmental review, he reported calmly. Their titanium extraction on Rigel 3 is suspended due to worker safety violations. And their entire shipping fleet is grounded because of jurisdictional disputes. Lisora monitored financial markets across the galaxy, watching stock prices fall like dominoes. Her financial instruments had turned the consortium's own investors into enemies. "Consortium stock is down 70%, she announced. "Their investors are panicking and selling everything." "How?" Kim Mingi asked. "Fear," Lisora smiled. "I spread rumors that the consortium was hiding massive debts. When people started selling, the price dropped, which made more people sell, which dropped the price further. It's called a death spiral." Choi Dae-ho was monitoring the industrial systems he had secretly purchased. Power grid on Vega 2 is experiencing controlled shutdowns. The water treatment facility on Proxima 4 is offline for mandatory maintenance. And the food distribution center on Alpha 7 is closed due to safety inspections. Hanyori's information warfare was proving equally devastating. Her broadcasts were reaching billions of beings across the galaxy, showing them the truth about the consortium's cruelty. "Public opinion has shifted completely," she reported. "Protests are happening on 47 worlds. Consortium's approval rating has dropped to 3%. Her screen showed angry crowds on dozens of planets, holding signs that read "Justice for Earth and End Consortium Oppression." The humans had turned the galaxy's public opinion into a weapon. Back in the consortium's headquarters, the crisis was getting worse every minute. Communication systems were failing. Supply chains were breaking down. Government officials were resigning in shame. "We need to negotiate," Ambassador Veltar whispered, his earlier arrogance completely gone. The proud warrior who had laughed at the humans 3 months ago was now begging for mercy. With accountants? Thuck snarled. But his authority was crumbling along with his economy. We are the Galactic Trade Consortium. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Not anymore, Veltar said quietly. They've beaten us. The humans had achieved in months what military conquests had failed to accomplish in centuries. They had brought the galaxy's most powerful empire to its knees. Using nothing but business suits and briefcases, Kim Minji's final stroke was elegant in its simplicity. She walked into the consortium's headquarters wearing her usual calm expression and made an offer that sounded generous, but was actually a death sentence. We'd like to help, she said politely. Earth's financial institutions would be happy to buy the consortium's debt at a fair market price. What she didn't say was that the fair market price was now about 10 cents on the dollar. The consortium's debt was worth almost nothing because of the financial chaos the humans had created. We'll purchase your obligations and help restructure your economy, Kim Mingi continued. It's called a leveraged buyout. Very common in human business. Carthax realized with horror that she was offering to buy their entire civilization for the price of a used spaceship. The galaxy's most powerful empire had been conquered by corporate raiders. With calculators, the emergency meeting room and the consortium's headquarters looked like a battlefield after a terrible defeat. Supreme Administrator Carthax, who had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist for decades, sat slumped in his massive throne like a broken toy. His golden armor, which once struck fear into the hearts of 1,000 species, now seemed too heavy. For his shoulders, around the enormous table, his most trusted advisors scrambled through piles of reports, their faces showing the kind of terror usually reserved for approaching death. The room's holographic displays flickered with red warning lights, showing the collapse of their empire in real time. Give me the damage report, Carthax demanded, though his voice had lost its commanding thunder. Now it sounded like a scared old man asking for bad news he didn't want to hear. Economic advisor Zilvan, whose tentacles had turned from their usual confident purple to a sickly pale green, shuffled through his papers with shaking appendages. Beyond anything we've ever encountered, they've weaponized our own systems against us. Speak clearly, Carthax growled, his massive claws scraping against the metal table. Our mining operations on 17 worlds are locked in litigation, Zilvan explained, his voice cracking. Every time we try to extract or human lawyers file another legal challenge. Our shipping routes are controlled by their regulatory agencies. They've bought the companies that inspect our cargo, the ones that manage our flight paths, even the ones that fuel our ships. Military Commander Vorjak, a warrior whose battle scars told stories of countless victories, looked completely lost. I don't understand. Where is their army? Where are their weapons? That's the problem, Intelligence Chief Nexara whispered. Their weapons are pieces of paper, legal documents, financial contracts, things we can't shoot at or blow up. Our stock prices, Zilvan continued, are crashing because of coordinated short selling. The humans have convinced our own investors that we're about to collapse, so everyone is selling their shares at the same time. Carthax stood up so violently that his throne cracked under the pressure. Use the military, he roared. Send every battleship. Destroy their pathetic planet. Turn Earth into space dust. The room fell silent. Military Commander Vorgok, who had never backed down from a fight in his life, slowly shook his head. Against what target, Supreme Administrator? There's nothing to shoot at. They're destroying us with mathematics and paperwork. Mathematics, Carthax's voice rose to a shriek. Numbers, Zilvan explained miserably. They're killing us with our own numbers. Every calculation they make hurts us more. Every form they file destroys another piece of our empire. Meanwhile, in their temporary office on the station, the 5 humans worked with the calm precision of master craftsmen, had transformed the simple conference room into a command center that would have made any military general proud. Holographic displays showed the systematic destruction of the consortium's economy, and the humans monitored it all with the detached professionalism of surgeons. Park Jinho sat at his workstation, typing legal documents faster than most people could read. His fingers moved across the keyboard like a pianist playing a complex symphony. Every few minutes, he would file another lawsuit, another injunction, another legal challenge that would tie up consortium operations for months. Mining operation on Kepler-7 is now frozen, pending environmental review, he reported in his calm, professional voice. Titanium extraction on Rigel-3 is suspended due to worker safety violations, and their entire shipping fleet is grounded because of jurisdictional disputes over cargo manifests. Lee Sora monitored financial markets across the galaxy, watching numbers change on her screens like a general watching troop movements. Her financial instruments had turned the consortium's own money against them. Consortium stock is down 73% and falling, she announced. Their credit rating has been downgraded to junk status. Banks are refusing to lend them money. How is that possible? Kim Mingi asked, though she already knew the answer. Fear is contagious, Lee Sora explained with a slight smile. I planted rumors that the consortium was hiding massive debts. When a few nervous investors started selling, others got scared and sold too. Now it's a stampede. Everyone wants to get out before the price drops further. Choi Daeho monitored the industrial systems he had secretly purchased over the past 3 months. Power grid on Vega 2 is experiencing controlled shutdowns for maintenance. Water treatment facility on Proxima 4 is offline due to safety inspections. Food distribution center on Alpha 7 is closed for equipment upgrades. Each shutdown was perfectly legal, perfectly reasonable, and perfectly timed to cause maximum disruption to the consortium's operations. Information warfare was proving equally devastating. Her broadcasts reached billions of beings across the galaxy, showing them the truth about the consortium's cruelty and corruption. Public opinion has shifted completely, she reported. Protests are happening on 62 worlds now. The consortium's approval rating has dropped to 2%. Her screens showed massive crowds of angry citizens from dozens of different species, all united in their hatred of the consortium. The humans had turned the galaxy's public opinion into a weapon more powerful than any army. Back in the consortium's headquarters, the crisis deepened every minute. Communication systems were failing, supply chains were breaking down, government officials were resigning in shame or fleeing to distant planets. We need to negotiate, Ambassador Veltar whispered, his earlier arrogance completely gone. The proud warrior who had laughed at the humans was now begging for mercy. With accountants, Skarthek snarled, but his authority was crumbling along with his economy. The humans had achieved in months what military conquests had failed to accomplish in centuries. They had brought the galaxy's most powerful empire to its knees using nothing but business suits and briefcases. Kim Minji's final stroke was elegant in its simplicity. She offered to buy the consortium's debt at market value, effectively purchasing their entire civilization through a leveraged buyout. The galaxy's most powerful empire had been conquered by corporate raiders with calculators. The final meeting took place in the same conference room where everything had started 6 months ago. But now, everything was different. The massive throne-like chairs where the alien leaders used to sit in their golden armor were empty. Instead, the once mighty rulers of the galaxy sat in simple plastic chairs around a small table, wearing uncomfortable business suits that looked strange on their alien bodies. Kim Mingi entered the room carrying her familiar leather briefcase, but this time everyone knew what it really contained: the power to control the entire galaxy's economy. She walked with the same calm confidence as always, but now the aliens understood that they were looking at the most dangerous person in the known universe. Supreme Administrator Karthex, who had once ruled 1,000 worlds with absolute power, sat hunched over like a defeated old man. His magnificent golden armor was gone, replaced by a poorly fitted black business suit that made him look like a child playing dress-up. His once proud voice was now barely a whisper. What are your terms?" he asked, unable to look Kim Mingi in the eyes. Ambassador Veltar, who had laughed at the humans 6 months ago, now trembled like a leaf in a storm. The warrior who had conquered dozens of species was now afraid of a woman with a briefcase. Kim Minji opened her briefcase with a soft click that seemed to echo through the silent room. Inside were not weapons of mass destruction, but something far more terrifying: a comprehensive plan to completely restructure galactic civilization. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who now controlled their economy, Let's discuss the future. She spread several documents across the table with precise movements. Each paper represented a different aspect of the new order she was about to create. Partnership, Kim Minji said simply. Earth becomes an equal stakeholder in the Galactic Trade Consortium. We restructure your debt, modernize your operations, and implement sustainable business practices across all sectors. Park Jin-ho, who had destroyed their legal system with nothing but paperwork, slid a thick document across the table. This is a comprehensive governance framework. Democratic representation for all species, environmental protection standards, labor rights, and economic transparency. It's a standard corporate reform package. The aliens stared at the document like it was a death sentence. In many ways, it was. Everything they had built through conquest and oppression was about to be dismantled and rebuilt, according to human business principles. And if we refuse? Veltar asked weakly, though they all knew the answer. Lysora's smile was polite, but as cold as space itself. Then we execute the liquidation protocols. Your civilization's assets will be sold to cover debts, and your systems will be placed under Earth's economic administration. The word liquidation sent terror through the alien leaders. They had learned enough human business terminology to understand what it meant. Their entire civilization would be sold off piece by piece like a broken company. Choi Daeho, who had secretly bought control of their industrial infrastructure, extended his hand across the table. We look forward to a profitable partnership. The aliens realized they had no choice. The humans had demonstrated that warfare had evolved far beyond their understanding. While the consortium had focused on military conquest, building bigger guns and stronger armor, humanity had developed the ultimate weapon, economic domination through pure capitalist efficiency. One by one, the alien leaders signed the documents. That transferred control of galactic civilization to 5 humans with briefcases. Each signature felt like another nail in the coffin of their old way of life, as the documents were signed. Han Yuri's communication networks immediately began broadcasting the news across the galaxy. But the story she told was carefully crafted. Earth and Consortium announced historic partnership. The narrative was already shifting. Humans weren't conquerors. They were liberators, bringing modern business practices to an outdated empire. Kim Mingi closed her briefcase and stood up with the same professional grace she had shown from the beginning. Pleasure doing business with you, gentlemen. Our transition team will arrive next week to begin implementation. The human delegation filed out of the conference room, leaving the alien leaders sitting in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the end of their civilization as they knew it, and it had been accomplished with nothing but business suits and briefcases. As the door closed behind the humans, Ambassador Veltar turned to his colleagues with a haunted expression. How did we miss this? How did we not see them coming? Supreme Administrator Karthex stared at the signed documents that had just transferred. Control of galactic civilization to 5 humans with briefcases. His voice was hollow with defeat. Because we were looking for warriors in armor, not warriors in business suits. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth that would be remembered for generations. Humanity's most dangerous weapon wasn't technology or military might. It was the ruthless efficiency of corporate warfare, refined through centuries of economic competition into the ultimate tool of conquest. Outside the station, Kim Minji adjusted her tie as she boarded the Earth transport ship. She was all ready, reviewing files for their next target, the Galactic Banking Authority. There were still several financial institutions that needed to be brought under proper management. She smiled slightly as she opened her briefcase again. The business suit had proven mightier than the sword. The age of military conquest was over. The age of economic warfare had begun, and humanity had just taught the galaxy that the most dangerous warriors don't carry weapons, they carry calculators.